So, to the surprise of maybe a dozen people, The Acolyte has been canceled. No season 2 for Disney Plus's Star Wars series. So this was reported in exclusive by Deadline. The story of The Acolyte will not continue, with Lucasfilm opting not to proceed with the second season of the Star Wars offshoot starring Amanda Stenberg. Word of the decision comes more than a month after the 8-episode first season of the series from creator, director, and executive producer and showrunner. Goodness gracious, she's... That was a mouthful. Creator, director, executive producer, and showrunner Leslie Headland wrapped its run on Disney+. It's definitely a Leslie Headland show. No one can dispute that. The news is not entirely surprising, the article continues. The Acolyte did okay with critics, with 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, but divided Star Wars fans, which was reflected in its overall viewership. I actually think this is incorrect. If anything, the fans were united in their dislike of this series. Currently, I think it's at an 18% audience rating, but they just want to dismiss that as just review bombing, although it only counts when something's bad. Review bombing only happens when audiences do it and the show is bad, but it doesn't count when they like it. Review bombing doesn't count that way. Driven by interest into the venerable space franchise, The Acolyte got off to a strong start when it launched June 4th with 2 episodes, generating 4.8 million views in its first day on the streamer to rank as the biggest series premiere on Disney Plus this year. I actually don't think there was a lot of shows that premiered this year before that. Echo premiered, I believe, and Doctor Who, that premiered on Disney Plus, I think. So there wasn't a whole lot of content in that kind of area. It was the biggest series premiere, I guess, out of not much. The tally rose to 11.1 million views globally after 5 days of streaming. Corroborating Disney's data, the series made its debut on Nielsen Top 10 Originals in its premiere week at number 7, 488 million minutes viewed, climbing to number 6 the following week. So yes, this also needs to be clarified because someone just breezing over this article might not connect it. But Deadline says the series made its debut on Nielsen's Top 10 Originals chart in its premiere week. So this wasn't on the top 10 of all streaming shows or streaming in general. It was a subcategory. So in just the originals content top 10 category, yes, it made its debut in its premiere week at number 7. So even in its premiere week with the most views, it was only number 7, and it was only in the category of original streaming shows. So even then, it's not impressive. So it dropped out of the top 10 in week 3. And week 3, I think, was like a lot of people just checked out on. Or I guess they didn't even get to that. They didn't even get to see the chanting. They missed the chanting. Oh my. Okay, so week 3 dropped out of the top 10. So it dropped out of the originals streaming top 10 chart. And then it came back at number 10 at the finale. So the finale, it jumped back up there. So premiere and finale, it jumped up on the originals top 10 streaming charts. And it says it was at 335 million minutes viewed. And it wasn't just the lowest. It fell off a cliff in terms of how poor the viewership was in comparison to previous shows. So this is an article from Cosmic Book News. The Acolyte season finale scores lowest Star Wars ratings. This article came out before the news broke of The Acolyte being canceled. So with its last episode, episode 8, The Acolyte scores the lowest ratings for a Star Wars season finale on Disney+. Also, finally, after 4 episodes, The Acolyte makes the Nielsen charts, but it's at the bottom of the barrel at the number 10 spot, and that was the originals content chart. A season 2 announcement didn't come at the recent D23 Expo at a cost around $200 million. It's doubted a second season will be happening. So this actually compares the Star Wars season finale ratings on Disney+. So this is the numbers for all the shows. And then you can see where the Acolyte falls on that. So the highest is Mandalorian. Mandalorian season 2, I guess this is over 1 billion minutes viewed, 1,336,000,000 views overall. The finale episode had this views of season 2. Season 2 of the Mandalorian finale was pretty major. But then Mandalorian season 3 went down a little bit to 1,012,000,000 minutes. It's kind of hard to read it in this way. And then Boba Fett, its finale was 885 million minutes viewed. and then Obi-Wan 860. So you already see a pattern of decline here. Andor went a little bit a steeper decline at 674 minutes for its finale viewed, and then again Ahsoka 575 million minutes, and the Acolyte dropped down to 335 million minutes for its finale, and that's a steep drop. It's getting low when it comes to Andor and Ahsoka numbers, and even then it's a stark decline. And we're seeing a pattern here. The Mandalorian season 3 was not well received, but people tuned in because they liked the first 2 seasons and they were hoping for something good. But that show seemed to like pretty much resolve. It ended like a series finale, and now we're getting a Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which I think was just a repurposed season 4. And again, we just see this pattern of decline. Boba Fett, people were interested and tuned in, but then were disappointed in its outcome. And then we have a little bit of a decline for Obi-Wan, but again, another character that people tuned in for. I mean, the show they tuned in for, but we still see a decline there. Andor that kind of declined even more, and then Ahsoka. So after all of these projects, we just have this pattern of viewers just not being satisfied with the overall show. You're bleeding viewers, you're bleeding fans and audiences, and now they've just mostly abandoned Star Wars. The ones that are left are not Star Wars fans. They're not watching The Acolyte because they like Star Wars, because it's a complete bastardization of George Lucas's mythology, and especially in terms of what was established in the prequel trilogy. And then you have the ones that are upset are the ones that don't understand Star Wars. They like it for things that have nothing to do with the Star Wars mythology and IP. They like it because it's like a Harlequin romance with a Star Wars skin. They want their sort of like genre that they enjoy weaved into other IPs. For some reason, there's a tiny little fraction of a demand for that specifically. But when you're abandoning and not appeasing or appealing to your actual fan base, they're gonna leave. Because there's actual content that's made with quality and care by competent individuals. We're at no shortage of entertainment, and free entertainment at that. People don't have to watch this to be entertained. And a lot of kids nowadays, they're not interested in Star Wars, they're interested in anime, or they're watching YouTube and streamers and TikTok. Star Wars just doesn't have the appeal to young people today as it did before when it premiered. People would just rather spend their money elsewhere on a quality show like Netflix. There's more quality shows there, so they'll just spend their money on that. Why would they want to get this streaming bundle? Because they've had to bundle with Hulu to even be profitable for Star Wars. Why would they want to do that if it's not a quality show, quality writing? And there's also tons of free entertainment too. And I'm not going to come back week after week for a show I don't like. Clearly, that's what happened with Viewership. They tuned in, it at least got to the top 10 for originals charts, whatever, and then just fell off a cliff. And the first 2 episodes it's not good. It wasn't a good show. It was boring. And they don't understand clearly what makes this world mythology good. What people like about it, they didn't understand it.